Welcome to the Dean Blechman Show, live from Long Island. Free-flowing talk with a charismatic, down-to-earth host. Join Dean as he interviews and chats freely with his guests, ranging from superstar athletes to politicians, industry titans, and everyday folk with fascinating life stories. Dean educates, entertains, and most of all, touches people's lives. You're listening to the Dean Blechman Show, live from Long Island.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dean Blechman Show. Here we are in Setauket, Long Island, the home studio. It's about 44 degrees out here. It's been a crazy winter. I mean, we've had 15 inches of snow last week. It's mild weather. It's going to be 70 degrees here on the island, and I'm happy to report here in my studio is my dear friend, colleague, senior correspondent, Anthony Lacauzi. Anthony, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, Dino. What's going on, brother?
You bet. Great to see you. We're going to now go across to the United Kingdom, where we have our also mutual friend, colleague, and senior correspondent, Ria Bo. Ria, good afternoon.
Hi guys, hi lovely listeners. Easy with the senior though. I'm not sure how much I like the senior. Can I be junior?
You could
junior.
You could be junior, Ria.
Okay, yeah, that would be fun introducing it like that. Okay, guys, and you listeners out there, this is a real easy one. It's a broad topic and no specific skill set needed, but you need a bit of life experience to have an opinion, which I'm sure you have. Today's topic shows old advice cliches, fact or fiction. So are advice cliches, is there anything really in them? Do you know what I mean? They've been around a long time. They've stayed the distance, because I certainly still hear them. And that's what we're just going to chat about and see if there's anything behind some of these old cliches. I've got 11 here in all, and they're all about sort of advising us how to go forward. But when you're ready, I'll start them off. Back to you, Dean.
We are all set. We're all set. Anthony, anything going on in your day today? Anything new?
Well, it's a beautiful day, although it is drizzling. I'm actually blown away about the fact that that it's going to be as warm as it is. As you said, I wasn't aware it was going to get up that high, but yeah,
it's going to be 70 here tomorrow.
It's
a time to take off the cover to the pool tomorrow, huh?
Hey, well, it's good. It's around the corner. Summer's around the corner, but I don't know. I mean, it makes you rethink what's going on. Is it global warming? Is it this is crazy. I don't ever remember it being like this.
Maybe it has something to do with our new president. That we're having weather like this, huh? But let's go back to Ria. Ria, why don't you start this topic show?
Okay, no problem. It's lovely to hear you chew the fat, though. No problem. Okay, here's the first one. We all know this one. Is there anything in it? That's what we're going to sort of have a chit chat about, see if it's come up in your lives and you guys listening as well. Here it comes. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Anthony, what do you think?
Wow. Yeah, I probably could relate to that on a personal level. I would say that there is more fact in that. That's one of those unfortunate ones that it's kind of the cold reality of life, is that sometimes the people closest to you will do the worst things to you, and I think it's one of those kind of sad realities, but there's a reason why it's a cliche, right?
Anthony, that's very interesting what you said, that sometimes friends or people or family or friends that are closer to you are sometimes the people that you got to be most careful and cautious with.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that 100%.
That cliche is interesting, Ria.
Totally, absolutely. I think the thing that I pick up on that is the intent in it, rather than it's post and you discover that someone's perhaps not what you thought, but it's a good idea to keep them closer. Is going out your way. If you apply keep your friends close and your enemies closer with intent, it's kind of like quite a strategic thing, isn't it? You're better off closer to them than having them away from you. So yeah, I quite like that one. So there's one. Right, I'll go on to the next one. Be yourself no matter what they say. What do you think, Dean?
Be yourself no matter what they say. Well, that applies. There's some true fact with that. Be yourself. I mean, people, we talk about that on the show since the show was launched. Full transparency, be real, and people are very comfortable when you try to act and not be yourself. I think there's no hiding. People can really feel within somebody whether they're really being who they are or being a fraud.
And I think that plays especially into this time in history where people are waking up to politicians and their BS. And you have people even outside of the political realm that in positions at big and small companies that have to act or can't be true to themselves because they have their own agendas, or they maybe just not even capable of being genuine. But that's why I love being with you guys, because you always keep it real and very, very genuine people. So.
Hey, listen, Anthony, we are in unprecedented times. I mean, our current president, a guy comes out of New York, real estate developer, business, TV showman, everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is this is cavalier, unprecedented. He's a guy that's just right out of New York and tells it like it is, and that's the way it is. Yeah. So I don't think there's any acting here. This is just the way our president is, and I think the next 4 years people need to get used to it.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said whether you like him or not. I think you have to appreciate the fact that you can tell, again, going back to the level of being genuine, unless he's really a really great at putting on an act, which I don't believe, he's someone that perfect example of kind of being true to himself and, applying himself as a business person to politics, which puts a new spin on things. And I think people are having a hard time processing it. I can't say I completely blame them, though.
Well, this is, I thought of him right away when Rhea brought up this cliche. Mm-hmm. So how about you, Rhea? What's your feelings on this cliche?
Yeah, I think the word is incongruence. If someone is disingenuous, I think people do pick up on it. I think it's an intuitive thing. I don't think you need a huge background. You just need to run intuitively. Trust your gut, I think they say. And if someone comes across genuine, that's got to count for something. And I think Trump has that going on. Whether you, as you say, Anthony, whether you agree with him or not, I think there's something about the guy that seems genuine, even if he's genuinely believes something that other people doesn't. It still kind of comes across as I've spoke to a load of people that sort of agree with that. The one when I read through here, when I think of Trump, was keep your friends close and your enemies closer, because on that Trump issue, strolling into I think it was pre-White House, where he's gone in with the CIA and the other intelligence agencies and gone, I don't want to know you. I don't trust you. I don't want to know you. That just seemed like such a novice thing to do. I mean, so for Trump, if anybody knows him, I think he's burnt the bridge with the CIA, and they're a bad bunch to make an enemy with. I would say, look, Mr. Trump, keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't. We keep using this cliche right away how it pertains to Trump, but just yesterday, Anthony, the Los Angeles Lakers, who are one of the greatest franchises in all of sports in North America. Yeah. Jeannie Buss, who's one of the family majority owners, her dad used to be the owner of the Los Angeles Lakers. She brought down the hammer yesterday. She not only fired a longtime player, that was the general manager, Mitch Kupchak, but fired her brother, who was in the executive office, had to fire her brother. But what I'm trying to say is the new the head of basketball operations at the Los Angeles Lakers is Magic Irvin Johnson.
Oh, wow, yeah, okay.
And, talk about being yourself, Rhea, and for our listeners all across Europe and throughout the world who don't know who really Magic Johnson is, Irvin Johnson. Not only is he a Hall of Fame basketball player, but is worshipped and respected throughout this country and world, just as a person. And his personality, Anthony, would you agree with me? I mean, you're still a young guy, but I grew up with Magic Johnson playing, and even after his career. And then there was years ago after his career where the great former NBA basketball commissioner, David Stern, was really probably hit with his first major NBA league crisis at that time, that his greatest basketball player in his league had to now announce to the world that he had AIDS. And to see Magic Johnson and his wife and family, how they handled that crisis, and what went on after that, all the good things that he's doing all these years after, and all the talk shows and what he's done in business after his career, everything he's doing for the NBA, and how he embraces and loves people day to day. That's an incredible story about what Rhea's brought up, this cliche about being yourself. He's one of my great examples in life. Right away, I think of Magic Johnson.
Yeah, legendary, yeah.
Rhea, back to you.
Okay, yeah, I'm loving it, guys. What a good one. Be yourself no matter what they say. Okay, number 3, comes the next one. I really like this one. Take the road less traveled. Where am I with this? I think if you take the road that everybody else is on, and the road is like another word for life, right? And you just follow it along, the end destination, you kind of almost know the end destination before you get there, because if you jump on the same road, it's going to take you to the same place. So if you looked around to see people that have been on that road, the common road, as it were, you can kind of see your destination. But if you can get off that and travel a road less traveled, I think it equals more adventure. So I like that. What do you think, Anthony? Take a road less traveled.
I think it's a problem for us because we only have the Long Island Expressway.
I disagree with you. Going east and west from New York City out to Montauk Point on Long Island, Rhea, we have... we've got a couple. We got more than we've got the Long Island Expressway, but we've got the Northern State Parkway. We've got Sunrise Highway. Southern State Parkway.
All of which could be a nightmare.
Basically, there's those 4 highways that can take you from west to east or east to west. But go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, but I bring that up to be funny too, but to even use it as a metaphor, I think here being outside of a big city and people that live around big cities around the world in the suburbs, you see so many people doing the same thing, commuting, to a job that I'm sure most of them don't like going to, it's kind of like watching the flock of sheep. But some people, I believe, are content with that. Some people, I think, aren't even conscious, just go through life unconscious. Some people just don't care. And some people value that, taking the road less traveled. And that's something that I agree with, being an entrepreneur and being into business, I think that's an important one. And I mean, for me, it's a fact. And I think for you as well, Dean, you've always paved your own way, especially what you're doing with this show. So.
Well said. I think the only thing you left out about all those 4 roads is how many millions of people out here don't get on the road. And what they do is, I don't know if Rhea heard of and our listeners in Europe and around the world, but we have something called the Long Island Railroad that goes east to west into Manhattan, that millions of people, amazingly. It's really an amazing story. I mean, even this far out, driving, we're without traffic, it could take people anywhere from an hour and a half to 2.5 hours, depending on the traffic and the gridlock. Mm-hmm. That there's millions of people on Long Island that choose not to drive, and they commute every day on this Long Island Railroad. Yeah. That's really an incredible story.
Yeah.
So what else on your end, Rhea, with taking the road, less travel?
The metaphor for life. I mean, I just think it's a good one, really. If you are thinking outside the box, and, I have a great deal of respect for people that can travel the road less traveled, as it were. They've got off the main. They're not running with the pack. They're not running with the majority. And that they've found solace and excitement and adventure in taking a road less traveled. That's the simplicity. And in terms of cities, I don't do them anymore. They're just too much grief to try and do anything outside your own house, sort of thing. If you try to go anywhere, you guys are you're just on the outskirts of high density, aren't you? So where I live in the countryside, and I'm looking out the window now and I can see for about 15, 20 miles, just green fields and loveliness as far as I'm concerned.
Beautiful. I got to make one more comment about this cliche that goes on here. And I want everybody to understand what the culture is out here. That those people that do choose to travel, and you watch them over the years, I mean, a lot of people that do commute this far out, they could spend 6 hours on the road to make that commute behind the wheel. That I used to always crack up when I would be on any of those highways that you mentioned, the Long Island Expressway, the Northern State, Southern State, and Sunrise Highway, that when you would look over at another vehicle as you're in gridlock traffic, you saw people laughing, and then you finally figured out they were listening to Howard Stern on the radio. So hopefully in the future, Rhea, that we're going to that these people in the future are going to be listening to the Dean Blechman Show.
You never know, Dean. Stranger things have happened. So who knows if they were listening to it in the cars on the way to work. My goodness. Yeah, I'd love to do a morning show and just keep it real funny. I love the idea of that.
You bet.
Yeah, lovely. And as people know, probably from your promos as well that you've done, that we're looking into a gossip show, which is I'm formatting it to be pretty outrageous, where I usually play the diplomatic card, particularly politically. And from a background of being diplomatic, being the boss a few times over in various different companies, I've always got to be diplomatic. And I listened to a show on a Saturday, and it's really good. And so we're putting a show together and formatting it up where there's going to be a bit of bitching, there's going to be a bit of backstabbing, and there's going to be a few enemies made, really. So that's one that's up and coming. I thought that'd get that in there. Right,
you got me on a roll now. I've got to add to that. You mentioned comedy and you mentioned gossip. I've got to say that to all our listeners out there, if they haven't gone to the show's Facebook page, Dean Blechman, you've got to go to it, because I've been spending a lot of time. Rhea brought up comedy, and there is going to be a lot of comedy also brought into this show. And met some wonderful people that have been involved with the comedy market here on Long Island. They're called Governor's Comedy Club. They've got other locations in Bohemia, Long Island, called McGuire's and Comedy Club. They've got Brokerage Comedy Club in Belmore, Long Island, and just great people. Joe Carletto, James Dolce, just some great people that own these clubs. And I've had an opportunity to sit with them and to go to the clubs, and they really like what's happening here with the show, and they'd like me to incorporate and bring the Dean Blechman show to the comedy club in all sorts of ways. That platform, you guys are going to be involved with me, and I'll never forget last weekend I had the opportunity to meet the internet sensation, the great internet sensation and comedian Vic DiBattista, and you could see it on my Facebook page. I had an opportunity to spend a couple of minutes with him. Just a great experience, and to see a different light of Dean Blechman than just in a standard being in a broadcast studio in his home and just staying calm and normal like this. And I do this once in a while, guys. You know, I do have my family, like when I was with Vic DiBattista and I was high energy and yelling and everything, my family's been asking me to tone it down a little bit. But Rhea, you brought up comedy and you brought up gossip shows and the others, so I had to just share to everybody that besides in studio here and doing shows like this and weekly news roundups and featured guest shows, that besides gossip shows, that you're going to be seeing the Dean Blechman and hearing about us all over at Governor's Comedy Club, and bringing the Dean Blechman show with a whole wealth of comedy and a lot of fun and a lot of laughs.
Okay, there's the plug for Governors then.
You bet.
Back in again.
Joe Carletto and James Dolce, a good plug there.
Yeah, no, you got it in there. Blimey. We'll be billing you next. Right, okay, next one. Next cliche. This is for you, Anthony. Short one. Dare to be different. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I like that. I've never been one for conformity. I think, you need to be careful though, because, sometimes if you're too different, you get yourself in trouble or you ostracize yourself. But, I think being different and having differences among us makes life that much more interesting. So I'd rather be around a group of different people, whether it's culturally different or different in their beliefs or opinions. Backgrounds. I love it. I think it's great.
I agree with you, and that goes back to how can we make a difference in this world. I know we've spoken about that on previous shows, and I think it's a great thing to everyone to engage themselves with different people from different cultures. Mm-hmm. Right, Anthony?
I agree 100%.
Rhea, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, totally. I'm just listening to you guys speak, and I remember traveling when I was young, 17, 18, 19, into Europe. I've been to most of the European countries and a chunk of North Africa. And when I traveled when I was young, people were different. You went to one country, they were different. And you went to the next one, and there's like loads of different countries inside Europe where you go now and everybody kind of looks the same, sounds the same, watches the same sort of things. And it kind of scares me that the world is going from a colourful place to sort of going grey. And I'm scared for the world becoming just nothing. It becomes a nothingness. But then when you cross over into Africa, all that difference comes back at you straight away. So if you like different guys, yeah, pop into sort of North Africa, go to Tangier or somewhere like that to see different. But I'm concerned that the world is turning into grey, Dean.
Rhea, and Anthony, I find that you don't even have to travel out of the country or internationally. My greatest experience was that when my son had an opportunity to go to this great institution in Ann Arbor, Michigan, called the University of Michigan, that he had an opportunity, growing up here on Long Island, being exposed to New Yorkers. And the way us New Yorkers are, Rhea, you've gotten used to Dean Blechman just for the past year, what our personalities could be like. That it was a great experience for my kid to go to school in the Midwest. You don't necessarily have to go out of this country, and to experience school life and experience other people that grew up and live in Michigan. And it was pretty good that his old man and his mother, I'm not calling her an old mother, Sharon, I'm calling you a young mother, young wife. But we had the experience those 4 years to travel many times to Ann Arbor. And it was an awesome experience, Anthony and Rhea, to be around people from the Midwest. I mean, it did feel like they were from another country because they were so much more humble and gracious and mellow and not high-stressed and not tensed. And they would, whenever we would go, they would laugh from Sharon's New Jersey, New Jersey accent, now Long Island, and Dean, my accent. And I enjoyed their accent and their cultures and just the way they were. And it was, in my lifetime, those 4 years of my son going to Ann Arbor, University of Michigan, were some of the best 4 years of my life. And the reason was to experience different people outside of Long Island and New York. It was just a wonderful experience that I'll never forget.
Anthony?
Yeah, just to go back to what you had said before, and we could probably do an entire show, so I don't want to get off on a tangent, an entirely different show, but I agree with both of you, but back to Rhea's point, and I'm curious to know briefly what you think. I think the emergence of technology and the fact that we're all so connected is kind of erasing some cultural differences and boundaries, or maybe that's not the right word, but I feel as the older generation gets older and passes on, and the younger generation comes up with what is available to us in terms of technology, I think that has a kind of a large role in maybe some of what you're seeing today versus what you had seen, many years ago. People.
Oh, totally. I think you're all bang on. I mean, when I was in North Africa, when I was young, it was different. Let me tell you, hold on, because you're going to be in a week of culture shock where you sort of go over now and they're all watching the same TV. They're watching, I kid you not, Algeria, they're watching the Kardashians.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? And so,
yeah.
Okay, just as an example, but every house has got a sat dish on it and they're all watching the telly box and they've all got opinions on, how big a arse is or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And you just never got that before. They were doing something else. And I think you're bang on. It's a technology thing. I don't think you can stop it, but I still have a concern about the world's going a bit grey rather than these colourful characters that I used to regularly come across when I was younger. I'm going to move it on, guys, to the next one because time's going by. Right, here comes the next one. This is quite good. Here it comes. And we'll go with you, Dean, on this one. Here it comes. It's all about the journey and not the destination. What do you think?
It's all about the journey and not the destination. Interesting. It's all about the journey. I think there's some truth to that. The journey is all about, life's experiences and what you learn from that journey, no matter what it is. That's how I feel, Rhea. It's not where you end up. It's what you experience and what you learn from that ride, from that journey. Anthony, anything you want to add to that?
I agree with you, and it parallels to one of my favorite quotes. It's a Italian quote, and I have the imagery in one of my tattoos. But it's a king and a pawn, and after the game, they both go in the same box.
Wow.
So if I could parallel that to what you were saying, as far as stressing the importance of the journey, because at the end of the journey, we're all going in the same box, and whatever your religious beliefs are after that point, obviously, is a whole entirely different discussion. But to emphasize the journey. I believe it's very important, and I agree with that cliche wholeheartedly. And to put a different perspective on it, if you look at the Machiavellian end justifies the means, that could be the opposite end of that, which maybe there are certain ways I could see that applying. But I do totally agree with just going through life, taking the journey, enjoying it every day.
Well, I want to add a little bit about what you said and what I said. You know, I meet, there's a lot of people that, older people that I meet, you know, as they get into their 70s and their 80s. And we have conversations about journey. And everybody is so under stress and feels that that success, that journey is all about pushing and financial reward, tied to economics. And it's amazing, Anthony and Rhea, how many older people into their 70s or 80s that I've had a chance to speak with, that at the end of the day, a lot of these people made a lot of money in their life, but a lot of them expressed to me this journey that they're kind of empty and lost because it was always about monetarily drive, making more money every day, that they sat back as they got older. And this journey now, they feel a little empty and lost, that about their legacy and what they gave back and what they did. As they got older, they felt that loss along their journey, that it was all about, once again, getting up every day and making more money.
And you know, I think that, you know, with age, you naturally become wiser, and some of the best conversations I've had have been with people much older than me, as you say, you know, 60, 70, 80 years old. And those are the best people to learn from too, when they can reflect and say, hey, listen, you know, I was going through life, I made a ton of money, and during that time, I think you get so caught up economically, most people, that they can't even recognize or enjoy the journey and see it for what it is, because they're kind of so caught up in whether it's making more money, or even just going on autopilot and raising a family, or other things that life may throw at them. I think it's important to not only acknowledge what we're talking about, but to reflect on your life, no matter what the circumstances are, and to appreciate the fact that you really are on a journey. I think it's a kind of a better way of looking at things.
Well said, Anthony. I want to bring it back over to Rhea.
Okay, guys. Yeah, it's lovely to listen to. Insightful stuff, all in all. I bet if you followed this one back, the cliche was it's all about the journey and not the destination. I bet it goes back centuries of words of wisdom from many cultures and many destinations. I think there's a lot of pressures that pressure us to focus on, you know, what are you going to do with your retirement? How are you going to do this? How are you going to pay that? And it takes it away from the here and now. And peace is only in the here and now. When you look forward and you look into the future, it's largely full of uncertainty and fear. So when you're focusing on the destination, I don't believe that's a particularly peaceful place. I suppose it could be if you're sort of making tons of money, life's comfortable. Not that money's or everything, but that could have that. But I think the true contentment, it really is in the here and now, as opposed to where that imminent destination was. And as I look at my list here and I read that cliche, I think the modern version of it, or if you hear people say that the phrase, I need to work on my work-life balance, I think it would be rooted in there somewhere. There's sort of acknowledging that I've been totally focused on the destination and not enjoying the here and now, you know, looking up at the sky and watching the, you know, just taking in this gift that we've been given. So that's my take on it, and I'll wrap it up at that if you'll let me, and I'll move on to the next one.
That was well said, Rhea. Beautiful. Very well said. Beautiful. Beautiful. That's what makes Anthony, you know, all these months doing this show that it's just, I don't know if, I haven't come across any online internet show that has, that we're able to join two different worlds, two different cultures like this so far away. And to be able to have someone like Rhea participate on the show. I mean, just think about it. We're sitting here in Setauket, Long Island. We're here in the studio and really to exchange lifestyle and thoughts and comments with Rhea all the way so far away across the Atlantic in the United Kingdom. It's just been an unbelievable experience that is exhilarating, and that wherever I go, Rhea, I share it with everybody about my Rhea bow.
It's very nice. We're starting to lose the internet connection. So can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm losing you a bit. Hopefully it will come back. Okay, so we move on to the next one. This one is quite difficult. Here it comes. You can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs. And my concern with that is recklessness. It's sort of as a things are going to get damaged along the way. That's my take on that. So not sure about that one. What do you think, Anthony?
I mean, yeah, if you take it in a literal fashion, but even in a metaphorical sense, tying into what you had said before, as far as daring to be different. If we look at breaking eggs as, breaking boundaries, breaking new technology, inventions, medicines, things like that, and take it out of a literal context into a metaphorical context, I'm not so sure I see it as recklessness, but I could see it that way. I see it in a more in a sense where, I do agree with it. I think it's true. But I don't necessarily agree with the recklessness aspect of it. But it could be just, difference in my perception.
Well, Anthony, I just want to comment that when Rhea first started off and she started saying, "Here comes a difficult one," I started to schwitz. And for those people that don't know the Yiddish word schwitz, I started to break out in a sweat and have some palpitations. I do still get nervous going on here. And I was keeping my fingers crossed that she would refer to you on this first one. But now that I said that, I'm being honest, how I felt. Yeah. Rhea, this cliche, you can't make an omelet without first breaking a few eggs. When you said that, I'm applying it to life and people being in business, that you've got to be adventurous. As I listen to that cliche, what comes to mind is you got to be aggressive. You got to be thorough. You got to be disciplined. There's nothing wrong with taking chances, and some of the greatest things that I learned in business that applies, I believe, to this cliche and in life in general is I think you learn a lot more from your failures than a lot of your successes. That's how I took when you came forward with this cliche. That's how I see commenting on it.
Yeah, no, I think both points of view have substance. They all sound good to me. I agree, having done the business thing as well. I don't know, I wasn't sure about it. I don't know why I saw it in a bit of a negative light. It's kind of, if you assemble something, it's putting an omelette together, you're going to lose a few along the way. And I guess I associated it with business and a kind of ruthlessness. I read in it, it's kind of okay to lose a few along the way. So we won't dwell on that one. We'll move on to the next one. Right, here's a good one. Here's a really common one. The grass is always greener on the other side, and that's got to go to you, Anthony.
Yeah, that's good. Thank God, Anthony.
You know,
keep it going to Anthony.
You know, when I was younger, I actually used to believe that. But as I get older, that's one I'm going to have to disagree with. And I feel that also ties into what we had spoke about before, with the journey and the destination. And I think it stems from that, spending too much time looking at a destination. Your subconscious even tricks you into thinking that the grass is greener or that something is better. Because as human beings, I believe we're kind of built to constellate and look for patterns and look for reasons to justify why we do what we do. But I as I get older, as I say, I don't believe it. Anytime I did believe that the grass was greener, it was usually involved a woman in a relationship, and it caused lots of problems for me. So,
Easy, Tiger.
That's funny.
I'll leave it at that. So I no longer believe that the grass is greener, though.
that was a good way. That was a good way to apply it, I guess, to your. I mean, you're only 29 to your
30 now.
30 now. Your dating life, right?
Yeah, you know,
the grass is always greener.
Yeah,
and I guess it works both ways, right? I mean, the ladies too. They have to look at it also. Is the grass always greener? You know.
As I progressed, the grass just got more and more burnt out. Sprinkler systems were broken. You know, nobody's coming by.
For me, when it comes to that cliche, is the grass always greener on the other side? I believe that much over 90% of the time, whatever it applies to, whether it's making a career move or whether it's making a move to, as Anthony said, to another lady, to another woman, over 90% of the time, I would say the grass isn't always greener on the other side. That's my feeling.
I think that's fair enough. Well spoken, guys. And what's my take on it as I take it in? I think I wouldn't want it to put down curiosity. So I'd say don't be afraid to look at the grass on the other side, out of the context of, I think, with what you guys are referring to, but just in general, whatever that is, don't get stuck in the rut. You know, have a look at the grass maybe to see if it's greener, but don't be hurting anybody or doing something detrimental to the people that you care about. So, but I wouldn't want it to sort of dampen down people's curiosity to see what's around the corner, kind of thing. But you need to do it sensibly and maturely, and which is obviously easier said than done. Okay, that's it.
How I look at it, Rhea, is just because you put down beautiful green sod on your lawn, I still believe planting and putting down some seeds is always better.
I couldn't agree more. That's a great metaphor. Okay, right, on to the next one. Here comes the next one. Okay, here it comes. It's not over until the fat lady sings. And yeah, that one can go to
Anthony. Come on, Anthony, go ahead. You're on a roll. It's not over till the fat lady sings.
I could go both ways with that one.
I cut Rhea off there. You see, I brought it back to you. I'm allowed to do that, Rhea, as the host of the show. Okay.
You know,
political stuff.
That's really, that's really the cliche of cliches. I feel that one's almost overused in a sense. I don't honestly know if I really even have an opinion on it.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. When Rhea said that cliche, it's not over until the fat lady sings, I kind of thought, you know who I thought of? I thought of the great, he's not living with us anymore, but the great baseball catcher from the New York Yankees, Yogi Berra, that it's never over until it's over. And it recently applied to the great Super Bowl that we just witnessed, where the Falcons, the Atlanta Falcons, were up by unbelievable, by 25 points in a Super Bowl game. I mean, the crowd, people, unless you were a Tom Brady and New England Patriot fan, everybody thought this game was over. And, Rhea, you say it's not over until the fat lady sings. My immediate reaction when you brought that cliche to the show and to both Anthony and I, my immediate reaction was to think over the great phrase by the great Hall of Fame Yogi Berra, baseball player, that he always said, it's never over until it's over. So I kind of see parallel with your cliche that you brought and with Yogi. And obviously, immediately in my mind, I thought of this great Super Bowl that I guess it wasn't that great of a Super Bowl if you were an Atlanta Falcon fan, but that's how I look at it, that any sports event, it's never over until it's really over. So that's what I thought of. Back over to you, Rhea.
Okay, guys, I'm losing you on this end. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I think we're, I guess you're having some, getting late in the day there in the United Kingdom. I guess everybody's starting to use the internet more over there. So we probably have to start to wrap this up.
It sounds more like work on the internet to me. But if you can hear me, you guys carry it a bit from here and I'll let you know when it comes back. Here's the next cliche. You can't please everybody all the time. Anthony.
Yeah, that one I agree with. And I feel that it's something that you learn, something that comes with age. Another situation where wisdom comes into play. Sometimes you learn that the hard way. Unless you listen, as you said before, Rhea, that there's these cliches. I'm sure most of them have been around well over 100 years, if not some of them, as you say, thousands of years. And there's a reason for that. And you would waste a lot of energy trying to please all the people all the time. And no matter what, whether you look at it, what's happening here in this country where there's such division going on, whether you look at from a political perspective, with the president, and the unifying statements that he makes, that should please everybody. But again, it's a perfect example where I just don't think it's even possible. So I mean, I agree with that.
What came to mind with me, Rhea, is you can't please everyone. It's just impossible. That's not going to work. That's almost like the cliche. There's some parallel to when people say it's a win-win situation for both. That's when I hear Rhea coming up with you can't please everyone all the time. Just like the previous cliche, I thought of when people say, they came forward with a proposal or a plan. That was a win-win, equal win-win situation, 50-50 for both. Someone wins more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone wins more.
Absolutely.
So it's like it's almost like in business. You got to have more Indians than chiefs, and there has to be some chief that has to be empowered with making the final decision, and you can't please everybody. Mm-hmm. So back over to you, Rhea.
Okay, I've got the net back so I can hear you okay. Yeah, you can't please all the people. I think, what do I read in between the lines? I think you need strength in your convictions. Again, it's a more rounded, mature standpoint, I guess, where, you've thought about it, you're moving forward, and you are at a realization where, not everybody's going to be happy about this. And so that's what I read into that one. But that one's been around a long time as well, isn't it? Here's another one. So we're drawing towards the end. We're coming up on the hour. The early bird gets the worm. That's an old one as well. What do you think, Anthony?
Wow, thank God you sent that over to Anthony.
My grandfather used to say that all the time. God rest his soul. He was a great man, very, very, very wise, very simple man, but very wise. But I believe he said that because I hated getting up for school, and I would always miss the bus, and we'd have to chase the school bus down the block in his old 1976 Ford Elite, and he used to, come in and say, "Wake up, damn it! Early bird gets the worm. Come on!" And I just was never a morning person, but taking it in the literal sense, looking at it from a business perspective, and as an entrepreneur, there's another cliche. Where we say pioneers get slaughtered and settlers prosper.
Wow, Anthony, pretty good. That was a good one. Really good.
Thank you. So I think that paints the opposite side of that. Early bird gets the worm. And I would say especially in business, and especially with, as we mentioned briefly before too, with technology, sometimes being the first one in line or first one at the party and being the early bird may not be a good thing.
You bet. I'm going to echo that. Sometimes it's better to be second. Right?
I agree with that 100%.
Back over to Rhea.
I think it's probably safer ground than being a pioneer, isn't it?
Sometimes it is.
Yeah, just let someone go first and see what happens. No, I get that. It's just one that's been around for ages. Okay, we move on to another one. Make hay while the sun shines. What do you think, Dean?
Make hay while the sun shines. I guess that just applies that you just never know. That's what I have. That's what I have to say about that, Rhea. That you just day to day, you just never know. Make hay, make the best of your days and every minute, every hour, and every single day, and count your blessings and thank God you have what you have. So that's my feeling, Anthony.
Yeah, I can agree with that as well. And taking it in a more literal sense, what strikes me is utilizing the resources that you have that are so easily overlooked. Something such as the sun, something that, comes up every day, and we sit here and we just expect it to. The sun has no reason to come up every day, but it does. So we should be grateful for that, as you said. I'm grateful for life. But, for me, first thing that comes to mind is using the resources that are available to us at any given moment to do whatever it is that we have to do, get the job done.
Leverage your own resources that are at your hand to get the job done.
Yeah,
I agree with you. Well spoken. Rhea?
Okay, we got one more. Better the devil you know. What do you think, Dean?
Wow, you got say that one again, Rhea.
Better the devil you know
than the one you don't.
I mean, is that parallel to keep your enemies close?
I think they are kind of, a lot of them are tied together, aren't you?
Isn't that tied together, Rhea?
I think so. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, kind of, in a way. Better the devil you know is, how do I read that? You're curious about something and it could be a big move, but really better the devil you know. So I kind of read it like that. Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you there. It could also tie into, with the grass being greener, and then you find out it's not. So I agree with the better the devil you know than the one you don't. Absolutely. Okay,
no problem. Dean, any more?
Nothing more. I think we're coming up on our hour here, Rhea, if you want to bring it to a close.
Okay, no problem. I'll just read down the list, the ones that we've spoken about. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Be yourself no matter what they say. Take the road less traveled. Dare to be different. It's about the journey and not the destination. When you make an omelette, you can make an omelette without breaking a few eggs. The grass is greener on the other side. It's not over until the fat lady sings. You can't please everybody all the time. Make hay while the sun shines. The early bird gets the worm. And that's what we've discussed today. I hope you enjoyed it, everybody. And remember to spread the love. Back to you, Dean.
Thank you so much, Rhea. Appreciate it. Anthony, thank you once again. Just a great show. And I want to thank all our listeners for being with us today. I just want to mention, please like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. All this show and all previous shows you can hear on iTunes. If anybody would like to be a guest on the show, have a great story to share, please write me directly at dean@deanblechman.com. I just want to say, everybody, to all our listeners again, thank you for being with us today. And from all of us at the Dean Blechman Show, have a great day.
Listening to the Dean Blechman Show, live from Long Island, New York. From all of us here, we'd like to thank you for tuning in. We look forward to hearing your comments via Facebook, Twitter, Skype, and email. And don't forget, you can visit the webpage anytime for the up-and-coming guest list. From all of us here, have a good evening.